She only wanted answers, but what she found on that street could never be forgotten. Missing children, shadows that whisper at night, and a secret buried for decades. You'll understand why Aveline was never the same after entering that house. Aveline stopped on Willow Street, feeling the weight of darkness that seemed to cling to every house. The wind whispered secrets she couldn't quite hear, but they unsettled her all the same. She knew her investigation would uncover truths most people preferred to ignore. With her heart pounding, she walked toward Mrs. Hargrove's house, determined to uncover what was hiding behind those dusty curtains. As soon as Aveline knocked, a shadow shifted inside. Mrs. Hargrove opened the door, her suspicious eyes scanning the young woman before her. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice tense. A chill ran down Aveline's spine. "I'm here to ask about the disappearances, the children." The words hung in the air, and Aveline noticed the woman biting her lip, hesitating. "No one wants to talk about it," Mrs. Hargrove said, glancing around as if afraid of being overheard. "But there are things you don't understand, things people would rather forget." Aveline's heartbeat quickened. "What happened?" she asked, already sensing she was about to hear something terrifying. Mrs. Hargrove began recounting stories of shadows dancing through moonless nights and whispers that seemed to call to the children. "They vanished and no one knows why," the woman continued, her expression heavy with fear. A shiver ran down Aveline's spine. How could people live in denial in the face of such horrors? What else was Willow Street hiding? It was as if the walls of the house were alive, guarding unspeakable secrets. Aveline couldn't ignore the pull of the investigation, even if she knew it would lead her down a dangerous path. Aveline closed her eyes for a moment and let her mind drift back to her childhood. She remembered how, on sunny afternoons, she would sit beside her grandmother, listening to tales of hauntings and spirits that wandered the night. Her grandmother's words had shaped her curiosity about the supernatural, creating a fascination that never left her. Now, looking at Willow Street, she felt that those stories might have been more than just old folk tale. The memories began to blur with reality. Aveline thought of a childhood friend, Lucas, who vanished on an ordinary day. No one ever figured out what happened, and the pain of that loss still lingered within her. It was an echo of tragedy that now fueled her drive to investigate the disappearances in the neighborhood. It was as if that moment had branded her life, a constant reminder that evil could hide in the most unexpected places. In her search, Aveline decided to visit another house on the street. When she knocked, she was greeted by a couple who seemed visibly nervous. They shared their own unsettling experiences. "The children used to talk about an invisible friend," the woman said, her eyes vacant. Aveline shivered. The story mirrored many others she had heard. A disturbing pattern was beginning to take shape in her mind. As she listened, Aveline found herself caught in a moral dilemma. She knew she had to keep digging, but part of her hesitated. The silence that hung over Willow Street seemed like a shield, protecting the residents from painful truths. Should she break that silence and confront what was hidden? The question echoed in her thoughts as the weight of the mystery pressed in tighter around her. Aveline walked down a narrow, dark hallway, her heart racing. She had discovered an old journal tucked beneath a loose floorboard, and as she opened it, a wave of emotion washed over her. The pages were filled with disturbing drawings, scribbles from a child who had vanished long ago. Aveline felt a chill as she looked at the images of an invisible friend who seemed to come alive in her mind. The sketches, mixed with simple words, told stories that fascinated and terrified her all at once. As she read, something clicked in her mind. She remembered the conversations she'd had with the residents of Willow Street. Aveline realized that many of the children who had disappeared had one thing in common. They all used to play together in a hidden spot behind one of the houses. The thought made her uneasy. What could have happened in that place? Why did the children gather there? Aveline began to understand that the stories she'd heard weren't just legends. They were echoes of a far darker reality. Something sinister seemed to be hiding in the shadows of Willow Street, something the residents chose to ignore. The pressure on her grew as if the very walls of the house were trying to whisper secrets that had been buried for far too long. That was when Aveline felt a presence behind her. The shadows, which once seemed like tricks of the light, now appeared to take form and follow her. The sensation of being watched wrapped around her, and panic began began to set in. Aveline knew she couldn't run from the truth, but fear made her question whether her search was leading her down a path with no return. Night was falling, and with it came the weight of the secrets that Willow Street held. Aveline knew it was time to confront the last remaining survivor of the disappearances. She knew the woman lived in deep isolation, far removed from everyone, and she felt a mix of fear and curiosity as she approached the house. The air grew heavy, as if the dark memories within those walls were trying to stop her from entering. Aveline took a deep breath and knocked on the door. When the woman answered, Aveline felt the wary, sorrowful gaze she cast upon her. The reunion was thick with emotion, and the two women stared at each other in silence for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the woman invited her inside. The atmosphere in the house was stifling, as though time itself had stopped. Seated in the living room, Aveline began to ask questions, and the woman started to reveal painful truths from her childhood. She spoke of laughter that turned to screams, of an invisible friend who wasn't as innocent as he seemed. Every word from her lips unearthed horrors that many had tried to forget. Aveline listened with a heavy heart, knowing that each revelation brought her one step closer to the truth, but also deeper into the pain. However, as the woman described the tragic events, she began to cry. Aveline realized that in seeking answers, she had triggered an emotional collapse. Some secrets were so heavy, they were perhaps meant to stay buried. A wave of guilt and doubt washed over her. Was it right to pursue the truth if it only caused more pain? As she left the house, Aveline questioned whether the truth was truly worth the price of the suffering it caused. The weight of those dark memories clung to her, and she wondered if, by uncovering the secrets of Willow Street, she had only reopened wounds that would never heal. Aveline sat at her desk, feeling the full weight of the revelations she had heard. Inside, a conflict took root. On one hand, there was a burning desire to expose the truth behind the disappearances. On the other, a longing to shield the residents of Willow Street from further pain. She knew the stories she had uncovered could hurt those who had already suffered so much. The dilemma consumed her, and the shadows of doubt danced in her mind. On a stormy night, as lightning slashed across the sky, Aveline was haunted by visions of the missing children. They appeared in her thoughts, their innocent smiles quickly shifting into expressions of despair. The children's faces followed her, questioning her resolve and courage. Aveline began to feel as if her sanity were unraveling, as if the children were calling her to a place she didn't want to go. The sense of terror grew. Aveline realized that the houses on Willow Street weren't just structures of brick and wood. They felt alive, absorbing and holding on to the fears and secrets of their inhabitants. The sensation that the walls were watching her made her uneasy. She wondered if each story she had heard had left a scar on those homes, turning them into vessels of pain and sorrow. With her thoughts clouded, Aveline made a decision. She felt the need to leave the town, to get away from the shadows and the pain that surrounded her, but not before recording everything she had uncovered. She knew it might bring more pain to the residents of Willow Street, but she felt she had to do something. The truth, no matter how painful, needed to be told. And so, with a heavy heart, Aveline prepared to leave Willow Street, carrying with her the weight of her revelations and the burden of dark memories. On the day of her departure, Aveline walked down Willow Street one last time. The sun was dim, and the heavy clouds above seemed to mirror her sorrow. The feeling of relief was tangled with a deep ache. As she passed by the houses, she recalled every story she had heard, every wary glance and every whispered fear. The walls, weathered by time, seemed to hold tight to the secrets she was leaving behind. Aveline reflected on what truth really meant. To her, the truth wasn't just a collection of facts, it was something that could wound and destroy. She questioned whether revealing what she had discovered was the right thing to do. The memories of the missing children stayed with her, and she knew that exposing everything could reopen wounds that might never heal. It was a powerful weapon, but also a dangerous one. As she walked, a feeling overcame her, that Willow Street would always be a place of sorrow. Even far from there, she sensed its dark presence trailing behind her. Something deep within whispered that some mysteries should never be uncovered, that certain truths were best left in the dark. Aveline stopped in front of one of the houses, the place where it had all begun. She said goodbye to the past, not with the hope of finding peace, but with the certainty that her search for the truth hadn't brought the calm she had hoped for. Instead, she felt that more shadows were now following her. With one last look at Willow Street, Aveline walked away, carrying with her the memories and the weight of a secret that could never be fully forgotten. Aveline tried to start over, far from Willow Street, but the memories of that place followed her like unwanted shadows. Each day was a struggle against the echoes of the stories she had heard. The laughter of the missing children seemed to whisper in her ears, reminding her of what she had left behind. Even amid the bustle of a new city, peace felt forever out of reach. One final glimpse of Willow Street would return to her in unexpected moments. The houses, with their shuttered windows and weathered facades, seemed to watch, guarding secrets that would never be told. Aveline felt that those walls still breathed, pulsing with pain and mystery, as if they were waiting for someone to return and uncover more. The feeling was suffocating, and she knew that Willow Street would always hold a piece of her. Aveline wondered if she would ever truly escape that place. A part of her remained trapped in the shadows of Willow Street, like an eternal witness to something that should never have been uncovered. She felt like a stranger in her own life, carrying a weight that isolated her from others. Light-hearted conversations and the smiles of strangers felt distant, as if she were watching the world through fogged glass. Aveline's story had reached a point of quiet sorrow. Her search for the truth had led her to an abyss of despair and loneliness. She realized that sometimes truth can be a heavy burden and silence a safer refuge. With a heavy heart, Aveline reflected on what it truly meant to live with secrets that could never be revealed. And so she moved through her new life, always carrying a part of herself within the shadows of Willow Street. Share this story if you believe the secrets of the past shape our present. Leave a comment about how you cope with memories that refuse to fade, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart.